Commander Vexara Nyth pressed her 6-clawed fingers against the observation deck's transparent alloy, watching the blue marble spin lazily below. Such a pathetic little planet, really. Third rock from a mediocre star, populated by bipedal mammals who hadn't even figured out faster-than-light travel yet. The irony wasn't lost on her that something so insignificant had managed to become the hegemony's greatest nightmare. "Ma'am?" Lieutenant Kresh's voice crackled through her neural implant. "The preliminary bombardment squadrons are in position. Shall we commence the glassing protocol?" Vexara's mandibles clicked in what passed for a smile among her species. "Not yet, Lieutenant. I want to savor this moment. After what these humans did to my clutch sister's colony, I intend to watch every single city burn." Slowly. 3 cycles ago, the humans had been nothing more than an amusing footnote in the hegemony's expansion reports. A species so primitive they still used projectile weapons and chemical propulsion. The science cast had classified them as negligible threat level 0 and recommended standard pacification protocols, orbital bombardment, followed by resource extraction and territorial integration. What could possibly go wrong? Oh, how spectacularly wrong they'd been. The first sign of trouble came from Kepler 442b, where Vexara's clutch sister Zalara had established a mining operation. The planet's indigenous life forms, some manner of hexapodal herbivores, posed no threat to the colonization efforts. Standard procedure called for atmospheric processors to begin terraforming while the mining drones extracted the precious quantum crystals buried deep in the planet's core. Then the humans arrived. Vexara still remembered Zalara's final transmission, her voice distorted by fear and static. "They came out of nowhere, sister. Ships made of scrap metal and desperation. They're not following any known tactical doctrines. They're ramming our dreadnoughts with freighters." "Who does that?" "Who?" The transmission cut to silence. When the hegemony's response fleet reached Kepler 442b 2 cycles later, they found nothing but debris and radiation. An entire colony, 12,000 of the finest hegemony citizens, reduced to cosmic dust by a species that shouldn't have been able to threaten a single patrol craft. The War Council had dismissed it as a fluke. Clearly, the humans had stumbled upon some ancient alien technology. There was no other explanation for how such primitives could destroy a properly defended colony. The second wave would be more careful, better prepared. The second wave never came home either. "Commander," Kresh interrupted her brooding. "Long-range sensors are detecting anomalous readings from the third planet's moon." Vexara's compound eyes swiveled to focus on the tactical display. Luna, as the humans called their oversized satellite, appeared normal enough. Barren, airless, covered in impact craters from billions of years of cosmic bombardment. But the sensors were picking up something else. Energy signatures that didn't belong on a dead rock. "Analysis," she demanded. "Unknown, ma'am. The signatures are, well, they're unlike anything in our databases. The energy patterns seem to be fluctuating in response to our scan attempts." Of course they were. Because nothing about these humans followed any logical pattern. They'd somehow managed to turn their entire moon into a weapon platform without the hegemony's intelligence network detecting so much as a construction permit. "Ma'am?" A new voice joined the neural link, Communications Officer Thylex. "We're receiving a transmission from the planet's surface. It's directed specifically at us." Vexara's mandibles clicked in irritation. "Impossible. They don't have the technology to penetrate our stealth fields." "Nevertheless, ma'am, the signal is coming through clearly. Shall I put it on the main display?" "Do it." The holographic projector flickered to life, revealing a human female seated behind what appeared to be a crude metal desk. She had the typical human features: bilateral symmetry, binocular vision, that ridiculous mop of keratin filaments growing from her cranium. But her eyes, there was something in her eyes that made Vexara's carapace itch with unease. "Greetings," the human said, her voice carrying an odd mixture of politeness and barely contained fury. I'm Admiral Elena Vasquez, Supreme Commander of Earth's Unified Defense Forces. I assume you're here about the Kepler incident. Vexara found herself staring. The audacity was breathtaking. This primitive was actually acknowledging responsibility for destroying an entire hegemony colony, and she was doing it with the casual tone one might use to discuss the weather. You have some nerve, human. Vexara activated the return transmission. Do you have any idea what you've done? What retribution awaits your pathetic species? Admiral Vasquez leaned back in her chair, and, to Vexara's absolute astonishment, smiled. Oh, I know exactly what we've done. We've introduced your people to a concept they seem to have forgotten during their galactic expansion: consequences. Consequences? Vexara's voice rose to a shriek that made several bridge officers flinch. Your entire planet will be reduced to molten slag. Your species will be extinct within the hour. Will we? The human's smile widened, revealing those primitive calcium-based teeth. See, that's where you've made a critical error in judgment. You assume we're still the same species you catalogued 3 years ago. Primitive, backwards, limited to our single world. She leaned forward, and her voice dropped to a whisper that somehow carried more menace than a battle roar. We've been busy. The transmission cut out, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Ma'am, Kresha's voice was barely above a whisper. Sensors are detecting massive energy buildups across the planet's surface. And the moon, ma'am. The entire lunar surface is changing. Vexara spun to face the tactical display, her worst fears confirmed. Luna wasn't just armed, it was transforming. What had appeared to be ancient impact craters were opening like mechanical flowers, revealing weapons batteries that defied every known law of physics. Energy readings that made their own dreadnought's main cannon look like a child's toy. How? She breathed. How is this possible? Ma'am, the sensor officer's voice cracked with terror. I'm reading similar installations on 12 planets throughout this system. And, ma'am, they're all targeting us. The tactical display erupted in warning lights as hundreds, no, thousands, of weapon systems came online throughout the Sol system. Each one represented technology that shouldn't exist, wielded by a species that should have been extinct decades ago. Commander, Thylex's voice cut through the chaos. We're receiving another transmission. This time, the human who appeared on the display was different. Male, older, with scars across half his face and eyes that held the cold weight of someone who'd seen too much war. I'm General Marcus Hoffman, Earth Strategic Command. I believe you knew my daughter. Vexara's blood chilled. She knew that name. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Hoffman had been part of the first human expedition to make contact with the Hegemony 5 years ago. A diplomatic mission that had ended when Vexara's own superior had decided the humans were too primitive to warrant formal negotiations and had ordered the entire delegation vaporized as an example. She was 23 years old, Hoffman continued, his voice steady as bedrock. Graduated top of her class from the Naval Academy. Spoke 4 languages, played violin, wanted to make contact with alien species her whole life. And your people murdered her in cold blood because you thought we were beneath your notice. The general's scarred face never changed expression, but something in his eyes grew darker. That was your first mistake. Your second mistake was assuming we'd just roll over and die quietly when you came for the rest of us. This is impossible, Vexara snarled. Your technology, your entire civilization, was a lie, Hoffman interrupted. A carefully maintained facade designed to make you underestimate us. Did you really think a species capable of interstellar travel would still be using chemical rockets? Did you honestly believe we'd achieved nuclear fission but somehow never progressed beyond it? His laugh was devoid of humor. We've been watching the galaxy for centuries, Commander. Learning. Preparing. Waiting for someone like you to give us a reason to stop pretending. The bridge's main display lit up with tactical overlays showing the true scope of humanity's military infrastructure. Hidden bases throughout the solar system, weapon platforms disguised as asteroids, an entire fleet of vessels that made the Hegemony's finest ships look like antiques. You want to know the really funny part? Hoffman continued. We could have revealed ourselves years ago. Could have joined your little galactic community as equals. But we decided to wait and see what kind of neighbors you'd make. Whether you were the type of people we wanted to associate with. His scarred face finally showed emotion, a cold, terrible smile that made Vexara's exoskeleton crawl. Turns out, you're not. The silence that followed Hoffman's transmission stretched like a taut wire across the bridge. Vexara's mandibles twitched as she processed the magnitude of their situation. 300 vessels of the Hegemony's finest battle fleet, trapped in a system that had just revealed itself to be the galaxy's most elaborate military trap. Ma'am, Lieutenant Kresha's voice wavered. The fleet commanders are requesting orders. Several captains are suggesting immediate withdrawal to hyperspace. Vexara's compound eyes fixed on the tactical display. Every escape vector was blocked by weapon platforms that hadn't existed on their sensors mere minutes ago. The humans had turned their entire solar system into a killing field, and the Hegemony had flown directly into it. Withdrawal is not an option, she hissed. Even if we could break through their defenses, returning to high command with news of this deception, would mean execution for cowardice. No. We fight our way out, or we die trying. The irony wasn't lost on her. The same pride that had led the Hegemony to dismiss humanity as insignificant now prevented them from making the smart choice. Sometimes, Vexara reflected bitterly, evolution was a cruel mistress. All ships, she broadcast across the fleet frequency. Battle formation Nexus 7. Target their weapons platforms first. Show these primitives what real military power looks like. The response was immediate and devastating. 300 dreadnoughts opened fire simultaneously, their quantum disruptors painting space with lethal energy. For a brief, shining moment, Vexara allowed herself to hope. Surely no species could withstand that kind of concentrated firepower. Then the human defenses returned fire. The first thing that struck Vexara was the sound. She'd never heard anything like it, a deep, resonant hum that seemed to vibrate through the ship's hull and into her very bones. The second thing was the light. The human weapons didn't produce the familiar blue-white lances of energy she was accustomed to. Instead, they fired something that looked like captured starlight, golden beams that moved with impossible grace through the void. The third thing was watching the HSV Dominance, a ship she'd served on for 2 cycles, simply cease to exist. What just happened? She screamed at the sensor officer. Where did the Dominance go? I don't know, ma'am. The young officer's chitin was pale with shock. The energy beam hit their forward shields, and then, nothing. No explosion, no debris field. The ship just stopped being there. Before Vexara could process this impossibility, her communications array lit up with incoming transmissions. Captain Nexus of the HSV Retribution, Commander. These weapons are some kind of matter disintegrator. They're not just destroying our ships, they're unmaking them at the atomic level. Captain Vorthak from the HSV Supremacy, ma'am, we need to retreat. We've lost 17 vessels in 30 seconds. Captain Zealith aboard the HSV Conquest, Commander, the weapon platforms are regenerating faster than we can damage them. It's like they're rebuilding themselves in real time. Vexara cut off the panicked chatter with a snarl. All ships, evasive maneuvers. Focus fire on the planet itself. If we can't destroy their weapons, we'll destroy their homeworld. The fleet wheeled toward Earth, their massive guns swiveling to target the blue-green world below. Surely even these mysterious humans couldn't armor an entire planet. One concentrated bombardment would end this nightmare. The barrage that followed would have been visible from neighboring star systems. Hundreds of quantum disruptors fired in perfect synchronization, enough destructive force to crack a moon in half. The energy beam streaked toward Earth's surface like falling stars, and bounced off. Impossible, Vexara whispered, watching the display in horror. Every single shot had been deflected by what appeared to be a perfectly transparent barrier surrounding the entire planet. No shield technology can withstand that kind of bombardment. Ma'am, the communications officer's voice was barely audible. Incoming transmission from the planet. It's Admiral Vasquez again. The human woman appeared on the display, and this time she wasn't smiling. Her expression was cold, clinical, like a surgeon preparing to operate. I was wondering when you'd try the direct approach. Most species attempt to glass the planet when their initial tactics fail. Predictable, really. What is that barrier? Vexara demanded. What technology could possibly, technology? Vasquez laughed, a sound devoid of humor. Commander, you're still thinking too small. That's not technology. That's physics. We've learned to manipulate fundamental forces in ways your science considers impossible. Gravity, strong nuclear force, electromagnetic fields, they're all just tools now. She gestured, and the display behind her showed a real-time view of the battle. Vexara watched in growing horror as human vessels began emerging from what she'd assumed were asteroids. Ships that moved without visible propulsion, vessels that seemed to phase in and out of reality itself. You see, Commander, your people made a fatal assumption. You believe that technological advancement follows a linear path. Discover fire, invent the wheel, develop spaceflight, conquer the galaxy. Very orderly. Very logical. Very wrong. One of the human ships, a sleek predator that seemed to be made of liquid metal, passed directly through a hegemony dreadnought. The alien vessel didn't explode or disintegrate. It simply began to change, its hull reconfiguring itself into something that hurt to look at. We took a different approach, Vasquez continued. Instead of building bigger guns, we asked different questions. What if space isn't empty? What if time isn't constant? What if consciousness itself is a force that can be harnessed? This is madness, Vexara breathed. You're describing impossibilities. Are we? The Admiral's voice carried a note of genuine curiosity. Your own records show that my daughter's diplomatic team included 3 theoretical physicists, 2 consciousness researchers, and a philosopher specializing in the nature of reality. Did you think they were just along for the ride? The truth hit Vexara like a physical blow. The human delegation hadn't been diplomats at all. They'd been scientists, researchers sent to study hegemony technology and confirm humanity's theories about the universe's deeper nature. And when her superiors had vaporized them, you used their deaths, she whispered. You used their murder as justification to reveal yourselves. We used their deaths as the final catalyst, Vasquez corrected. The decision was already made. Your people have spent centuries spreading across the galaxy like a plague, destroying civilizations that didn't meet your arbitrary standards of advancement. Did you really think no one was watching? No one was keeping score. The tactical display showed the brutal reality of the situation. The hegemony fleet was being systematically dismantled by weapons that defied every known law of physics. Ships weren't just being destroyed, they were being transformed, their crews subjected to fates that Vexara's mind refused to fully comprehend. This is genocide, she snarled. You're committing the same crimes you accuse us of. Are we? Vasquez tilted her head, genuinely curious. Look closer, Commander. Your crews aren't dying. They're being educated. Vexara's attention snapped to the sensor readings from the transformed vessels. Life signs were still present, but they were different somehow. Changed. The crew members were still alive, but their neural patterns showed radical alterations. What have you done to them? We've given them perspective, Vasquez replied calmly. Every member of your fleet is now experiencing reality from the viewpoint of every species the hegemony has destroyed. Every world you've burned, every civilization you've erased, they're living through it all. Understanding, for the first time, the true cost of your expansion. The horror of it struck Vexara like a tsunami. A punishment worse than death, eternal awareness of every atrocity committed in the name of hegemony superiority. Her own crew would face the same fate. She would face the same fate. Why? She whispered. Why reveal yourselves now? Why not just eliminate us quietly? Because, Vasquez said, leaning forward with terrible intensity, elimination isn't justice. Your people need to understand what they've done. They need to comprehend the magnitude of their crimes. And most importantly, they need to ensure it never happens again. The last of the hegemony vessels succumbed to the human weapons, their hulls reshaping themselves into forms that sang with alien harmonies. Vexara found herself alone on her bridge, her crew already beginning their transformation into something beyond her understanding. Don't think of this as an ending, Commander, Vasquez said softly. Think of it as graduation. Your species is about to learn what it truly means to be sapient. To be worthy of the gift of consciousness. As the golden light engulfed her ship, Vexara's last coherent thought was a recognition of cosmic irony. The hegemony had spent millennia judging other species as unworthy of existence. Now, they would discover whether they themselves deserved to survive their own judgment. The transformation began, and for the first time in her life, Commander Vexara NYTH began to truly see.